Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Friday, a feel-good Friday here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. So glad you're with us. Looking forward to having you for the next 2.5 hours talking sports to round out the week here on 580 Sports Talk, on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and streaming live on video. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Our Facebook page is WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. I will be mostly solo today for the next, again, 2.5 hours. We're going to make way at 5:30 for some K-State baseball as the Cats put their 5-1 start at Big 12 play on the line against Texas Tech tonight at Tointon Family Stadium. Pre-game coverage from the K-State Sports Network at 5:30. So we're done a little early tonight, and we'll cover a lot of ground in these next 2.5 hours. The Royals will not go 162-0 this year. I was at Kauffman Stadium yesterday for opening day. What I liked, what I didn't, what I'm not going to freak out about one game in, what felt kind of uncomfortably familiar about what we saw from the boys in blue in a 7-4 10-inning loss to the Cleveland Guardians yesterday afternoon. We'll get there. We'll talk some NCAA tournament. We will, of course, have our What Is Wrong With You March semifinals today. Matt Derrick's going to join us bottom of this hour for our Chiefs Insider. But we will begin today from parts unknown, at least until he tells us exactly where he is. The voice of the Washburn Ichabods, our co-host, our good friend, Brendan Dworzynski, making his way back from Evansville, Indiana, after the Washburn Ichabods fell to Nova Southeastern last night in the NCAA Division II Final Four. So we'll start there, Brendan. Whereabouts are you now as the magical mystery tour that was Washburn basketball these last few weeks comes to an end? Where are you now on your journey home?
Well, Dan, I am currently somewhere in the central third of Missouri or so, heading west at the moment. I was hoping to be a little bit farther at this point, but there's some construction slowdowns, but we're making progress. We're making headway. I'm currently driving in this clown car I told you guys about earlier this week. A slight breeze pushes this car like 3 lanes in any direction. So it's not the most fun drive I've ever had, but we're making progress. We'll be home not too long.
Well, hoping, of course, for continued safe travels. And I know that you will be happy to be back home. Nobody will be happier to have you back home than your wife and your young child. So looking forward to having you back in the capital city for sure. Washburn loses to Nova Southeastern last night in the Final Four. And I guess we can start here. Nobody was beating Nova Southeastern last night the way they played, and particularly the way they shot the basketball. Did those dudes even hit the rim on any of their three-point makes last night? That was a pretty impressive performance. That was the number one team looking like the number one team, and we'll get to the Washburn side of it in a second, but man, sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, and the Ichabods ran into a buzzsaw last night.
Yeah, they did, and there were a couple things that made me not feel better. I mean, you lose by 26 in a Final Four game. Obviously, there's no way to really feel like, oh, well, actually, this was good after the fact. But one thing that did kind of stand out, I thought during the quarterfinal, when Nova played the 8th seed Assumption, which was far less athletic and far smaller than Washburn, they kind of let off the gas at the end of the game, and Assumption cut it down to a 9-point final score against the team that led the country this year in scoring margin in Nova. And I thought, okay, either something is flawed here and they just played bums all season, or they are looking ahead to Washburn. Because even though Washburn played in the 4 versus 5 game, we knew, pretty much everyone knew, this was going to end up being the national semifinal, Nova versus Washburn. And you could tell that team, and not that Washburn thought any differently, like they clearly were locked in, ready to go for the game. I wouldn't ever argue otherwise. But you could tell from the jump that Nova took that game personally for one reason or another, and they were just incredible. And it's not like some of the threes they made or some of the shots they got weren't contested, because some of them had really good contests from the Washburn defense. Sometimes it's not enough. And when you've got a 6'9" guy who is a good three-point shooter, 38%, who drills 4 of 6 with hands in his face every time, sometimes it just feels like it's not your day. Their defense was probably as good in the half court as I would argue it had been all season for that program. So unfortunately, just kind of a combination of they were a buzzsaw, and you're right, no one was going to beat them. And Washburn, unfortunately, had an off night at the worst time.
Yeah, that's sort of where I look at it from the Washburn perspective is, look, again, Nova Southeastern's really good. That appears to be number one with a bullet, and they're going to do some damage against Cal State Dominguez Hills tomorrow afternoon, the national championship game, if I had to guess. And you tip your cap and you give the credit where it is due. But what I imagine has to be frustrating for Washburn as they make the trip home from Evansville is that they did not give the best accounting of themselves in that 40 minutes of basketball. They did not shoot well. I believe they missed 15 of their first 16 three-point attempts. They made their last 3, but that was when the game was already well in hand for the Sharks. It was not a good day for the guards. Jacob Hanna, Jack Batchelor, Sam Ungashik, the ball-handling guards, neither of them played particularly well. Jack got in foul trouble. Hanna missed a lot of looks in close to the basket. Obviously, turnovers were an issue all game, which is par for the course when you play Nova Southeastern. But that has to be the disappointing part, not losing, because there's no shame in losing to number one and a team that has now kind of taken over as the gold standard of Division II men's basketball. But you would have liked to have played a little better, and that will sting, I think, for a little bit, that Washburn didn't give the best accounting for themselves.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And I think any of the guys would tell you the same thing. You know, I spoke during postgame to Michael Keegan, one of the seniors from this class, and he told me, look, we said at halftime, we knew it was getting out of hand, but we'll play with no regrets, play looser. And I do think Washburn started to figure a few things out in the second half. But you're right. I mean, the ball just did not move the way that it has so well, so fluidly, and frankly, so easily for Washburn this year. I believe the final number was 9 assists on 26 made baskets, which is just so antithetical to what has worked so well for this group over the course of the season. And a lot of that, again, you give credit to Nova's defense because, you know, I watched, you know, I wasn't doing a deep dive in synergy or anything, but I went back and I found some of their game tape and, you know, some of their streamed games from the year and went back and looked to see what Washburn was getting into. This was, as far as I could, and I saw them in person on Tuesday. This was by far the best game they played in the half court defensively, maybe in the entire Jim Crutchfield era, the current head coach at Nova. I mean, it was ridiculous. So you give credit to the defense for doing a lot of that. But Washburn, too, I think was ready for the pressure, but I don't know that you can truly be prepared for it until you see it. They did the best they could. The game plan was good, but there was a turnover very early in the game. Jacob Hanna was looking for Jack Batchelor in the backcourt. I think it was after a miss by Nova. Maybe it was after an inbound. Either way, first few minutes of the game, Jack's on the far sideline. Jacob's middle of the court. He gets stuck trying to just make this tough horizontal pass and just missed the mark, threw it out of bounds. Nova gets it, scores a bucket right after. And that is one of those things that, okay, that happens when you play this team. But the problem is if that happens more than 2-3 times over the course of the entire game, they just keep running, they keep pressuring, and it's so hard to catch back up, especially if your three-pointers aren't falling to try to keep it close. You know, another example of this, Braden Shorter, who leads the nation and will, because no one else can catch him with one game left, led the country this year in three-pointers made, goes 0 for 9, and his first one of the day was blocked. Like that's just something that never happens with a shooter who is as good, who is as dominant from deep as Braden is. That probably was a bit of an indication early on, a harbinger of things to come, that maybe this one was not going to trend in Washburn's direction. Plus, one other stat, Dan, that really stood out, this is just the third time all season Washburn got out-rebounded. That never happened to this team, and they were -7 on the glass, -5 on the offensive glass. When things like that happen, these things that have been so good all year, it's not a surprise that things unfortunately trickled away from them.
Yeah, and that's Nova Southeastern stock and trade, right? That's what they do. They try to win the rebounding battle by a lot, and they typically do, and they try to win the turnover battle by a lot, which they typically do. Jim Crutchfield, their head coach, is a former math teacher and tries to turn games into math problems, and more often than not, the Sharks have found themselves on the right side of the equation. They'll go into tomorrow's national championship game, I believe, with the record of something like 133-5 or 114-5, I think it is, the last 3 years, which is awfully impressive. And they will be very heavy favorites to win the national championship against Cal State Dominguez Hills. We're talking to Brendan Dworzynski, who was there seeing the Ichabods at the Elite Eight and into the Final Four in Evansville, Indiana, making his way home. So he's joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. And Brendan, obviously, this is a new benchmark for the modern era of Washburn basketball. Their first time in the Elite Eight, into the Final Four since 2001. And this is a program that always has big aspirations and big goals. But now that those goals have been achieved and there's a tangible reminder of recent success, it's going to go up in the rafters at the remodeled Lee Arena. What's next for this program with a lot of talent coming back, a lot of really good young players like Braden Shorter, just a sophomore, Dylan Clausen, who was great in the Elite Eight game, just a freshman. There are a lot of guys with a lot of eligibility left for this Washburn team and Coach Brett Ballard. What is the next step for Washburn basketball? What did they learn from this season and this experience that they're going to have to do if they want to continue to make these trips out to Evansville?
Well, one thing in a very literal sense, and I know we're going to get to a style of play point here in a moment because I know we both have strong thoughts about it. Washburn never sees defense like this. Never. It's not something that gets played in the MIAA. It's not something that gets played in the Central Region, but it is something that was played by 3 different teams that made it to the Elite Eight, this 94 feet nonstop pressure thing. So literally seeing it and experiencing it in person, especially for the guards who are returning, that's going to be important going forward. But from a Washburn-specific standpoint, it's always hard to know because you never know what the transfer portal will look like. I have no idea if anyone is considering, making a jump elsewhere. I know there's a lot of guys with a lot of talent and a lot of experience still who have eligibility to come back. And my hope is that almost all of them do. So I'm going to operate under that assumption. But look, you are going to bring back a top 10 point guard in the country, in my opinion, in Jack Batchelor, a top 5 3-point shooter on the wing in Braden Shorter, who became a even better rebounder this year. And that's something he and I, Coach Brett Ballard and I talked about over the course of the year. He's always been a good shooter and a willing shooter, but what more can he add to his game? And he was a lot better on the glass, especially as the year went on this season, improved defensively too. Dylan Clausen is going to be a superstar. And if he was an All-American in his career before it was all said and done, I would not be surprised. Know the name because he is going to be that good. He's just a freshman. Brady Christensen's back for another year. Sam Ungashik's going to be back for another year. Both incredibly key players off the bench this season who started every game last year, which is ridiculous, the kind of depth Washburn had. So there's no reason to think this team shouldn't be the favorites to win the MIAA again, a legitimate contender to make the NCAA tournament again as well. They've got the potential for it. And for these young guys, especially, you look at Jack, you look at Braden, you look at Dylan, it's a learning experience that, hey, you guys made it to the Final Four for just the 3rd time in the history of the program, 35 years in the NCAA, 3 times you've been in the national semifinals. You guys just won more games than anyone else in program history. That experience is going to be vital. That, having to go through the trials and tribulations, I think that's going to be incredibly important for this group as well. So, as hard as it is, and you can't spend too much time focusing on the future when you just went through such a tough loss. But man, this team's going to be back next year, and that's the one kind of saving grace I've had. With the sadness and the toughness of this is they're going to be really damn good next year because there's a lot of all-conference and possibly all-American talent coming back.
Yeah, it's an impressive group of players, no question about it. And what they accomplished is truly special. It's never easy to do it out of that central region is the thing, because there are so many programs that are outstanding year in and year out. You take a look at the Elite Eight field and the way it's done regionally. You see a lot of the same teams come out of some of the same regions, right? You see some of those dominant runs. And look, Northwest Missouri State had a dominant run out of the Central. It's not that it can't happen, but it's hard to win the Central region. And Washburn now has proven that they've done it. They've cracked through that particular glass ceiling, and they are going to be very much a threat to do it next year. You spoke to Nova Southeastern's play style. We read about it earlier this year. Our guy CJ Moore wrote a profile of their 69-year-old head coach Jim Crutchfield, and how he came up with this style of play, how he conceived of it and has implemented it at programs that were not good programs, West Liberty first and now Nova Southeastern, and has won incredibly at both programs. I've gotten now to see it on the floor. You have seen it now in person. I don't like it. Like, I don't care for it. I know this is going to come off as sour grapes, but like, that doesn't feel like basketball to me. That feels like getting in a run at the Y, like a real organized JUCO team with better players. To me, it is not an appealing way to play basketball, but you can't argue with the results.
So the funny thing about you saying that, it is literally how I always used to set my team sliders when I played the old college hoops 2K video games. Literally turn pressure up to 100 every time and set it to press on every play and like crash the glass 100%. Like literally video game stuff. And I would not tell you that what I did on the old PlayStation 2 games was real basketball. It wasn't. It was just cheese because I wanted to win and beat the computer. Like that's what it feels like. Now, I will do the build them up then break them down thing. I will say they are, like I said, one of 3 teams that made it to the Elite Eight that plays this nonstop pressing style. One of them, along with Nova, was West Liberty, who you just mentioned. It was Crutchfield's former top assistant, who's now their head coach, running the exact same system. So you can understand why they do it and why they can do it to success. The difference for Nova is that they have legit players. Like, and not to totally discredit Dallas Baptist or West Liberty, but those dudes for Nova could play anywhere in any system. They just happen to play in this incredibly fast-paced, wild system. Like MJ Araldi would be the National Player of the Year regardless of what he was playing. I mean, if he played at Washburn, he might be the National Player of the Year. He's that good. Riker Scissorick, the big man who had 28 points and all those threes yesterday, he's the same way. I mean, those guys would be stellar no matter where they ended up playing. So that's a credit to Nova that they have the right players. I saw both Dallas Baptist and West Liberty blow 17 or bigger point leads to an okay Cal State Dominguez Hills team in the quarterfinals and semifinals, and they did not have those kind of players. So that's a credit to Nova. That being said, dude, it's gross. I mean, it's nonsense basketball. It's like an organized JUCO thing, and if it works, it works. And the coaches said in their press conferences this week, look, we know it's unique. We know it's not for everyone, but players think it's fun. And that immediately popped in my head, oh, okay, it's a recruiting tool. Like,
sure.
Like the fact that they play that way is a recruiting tool. Come to us, these probably fringe D1 talents, come to us. We're going to play fast. You're going to score 20 points a game, and we're going to beat up on cupcakes because, Nova's good regardless wherever they play. But a lot of those East Coast conferences are not especially good. Like, that's the entire selling point of these teams. And I give them credit because it works, but it's not like I was joking with Coach Ballard at one point what if they ran a few half-court defensive sets? Like, what if they ran a normal offense? What would this look like? And, it wouldn't have mattered yesterday. That's why I've convinced myself it's not a sour grapes take, because they would have beaten a handful of Division I teams, probably more than a handful of Division I teams yesterday, the way Nova played. But it's not an appealing style of basketball. They also whined so much, I couldn't believe it. Like, guys, you would beat anybody today. You'd beat teams from the Missouri Valley today. Why are you whining? Why are you complaining? Just play the damn game. I'm thrilled I don't have to watch any more Dallas Graziani this year, but that's neither here nor
there. To your point, the Jayhawker in the YouTube comments here on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talks, the channel, said Nova Southeastern is better than any 14 through 16 seed in the D1 tournament. I would be inclined to agree. I think they probably have better players than those teams. But to your point that you just made, and this is the part that's going to get me some angry emails from Davie, Florida, if they come across this. I was watching the game last night, and look, like, okay, their style, not my favorite way of playing basketball, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be aesthetically pleasing to me. That's not what really matters. And hey, if they win, they win. So yeah, like I'm not trying to be sour grapes there, but there's something else that was bothering me throughout the game about Nova Southeastern. And it finally dawned on me about midway through the second half, when one of their players almost had got a technical foul for running into Brett Ballard during a timeout, and another one of their players did get a technical foul. And it hit me. And I'm not entirely sure I can say this part on the radio, but Brendan, those kids are douchebags.
Yeah, man. And I don't remember if I mentioned this the other day, but there was a moment during the quarterfinal game. They played Assumption. It was not like Assumption didn't bring a ton of people, understandably, the 8 seed ball school from the East Coast. Nova traveled okay, but they didn't exactly have a rowdy crowd either. And you could hear, as Assumption went to the free throw line, I don't remember which player of theirs it was, 2 players for Nova loudly in a not very full gym, so you could hear it everywhere, loudly saying, yeah, don't worry, I got Shooter, he's probably missing. Like, just very loudly, and talking trash is fine. I have no problem talking trash. Some of the Washburn guys talk trash. That's great. Jacob Hanna was not afraid to tell anyone what was on his mind, and he backed it up. I have no problem with that. But kind of being, like, I don't know what words I can say here. I don't have the FCC handbook in front of me while I'm driving. But I just know that it was a different kind of attitude that rubbed me the wrong way. And, there's a play in the second half. Graziani, their point guard, he's guarded by Jake Shottegg, who's out there, and Jake's going to get in your grill. He's tough. He's not very big, but he's tough, and he's going to battle with you. Graziani is intentionally sticking his leg between those of Jake Shottegg, then turns around and throws an elbow at him to create space, and then complained when there wasn't a foul call. Like, Dallas, buddy, you are the one who just committed the foul. You threw an elbow high trying to rip at the ball, man. Like, that's not – it felt unethical, to use your favorite term, Dan, the unethical hoops. That's kind of what it felt like. And, again, I don't really think it's sour grapes because they were going to win anyway. They didn't have to do any of that stuff yesterday with the way they played. So, yeah, it's unfortunate to have a game that goes like that. And it'd be one thing if you just say, hey, tip your cap. They were great. And hey, you lost respectfully. Nah, man, like they were being jerks about it. But it is what it is. You at some point you lost by 26 points. There's only so much you can say. But not my favorite team that Washburn has ever played against. I'll put it that way.
Incredibly unlikable group of dudes. Obnoxious haircuts, obnoxious tans. Like all those kids do is play ball and tan. Like,
I will tell you, somebody in the crowd during warm-up, and I believe it was a Washburn fan, maybe this gentleman's listening, but one of them yelled during warm-ups, and I can't remember which player he called out, but he said, so-and-so's got a spray tan, and the players on the floor laughed. Like, they were like, okay, yeah, no, he got us. He's at our ass. Like, yeah, that's true. We definitely have spray tan. But, yeah, I mean, they look like movie villains. Like, they look like 80s movie villains.
They did.
But it worked. Like, they're the bad guys because they win a lot. And, got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, call them whatever name you want to call them. But in about 24 hours, you're going to be calling them national champions because they're going to run through Cal State Dominguez Hills. Yeah, I absolutely believe that. Brendan Dworzinski joining us live from the road on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Washburn falls to Nova Southeastern 94-78 last night, or in the Elite Eight, or in the Final Four of the Division II men's basketball tournament, Evansville, Indiana. Brendan, continued safe travels on the way home. Thanks for chronicling Washburn's remarkable run, a 30-win season, only the second in program history, and we'll look forward to having you back in studio next week.
Yeah, can't wait. Real quick, Dan, because I know you got to get to a commercial break, but real quick, I just wanted to shout out the Washburn seniors, Michael Keegan, Andrew Orr, Jake Shottegg, Jacob Hanna. Love those dudes. Those guys gave their hearts to this program. Andrew and Michael spent their whole careers at Washburn. Just nothing but love for those guys, nothing but respect, and tough way to go out, but I hope they can hold their heads high because they had some of the best Washburn careers of all time. Thanks, man.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Brendan. That is Brendan Dworzinski. We do have to take a timeout. Matt Derrick's coming up bottom of this hour. Lots of Royals to get into after their opening day loss yesterday. We got a jam-packed show. We're just getting started here on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero hanging out with you solo the rest of the way. Our thanks again to Brendan for calling in from somewhere in Missouri. Tough one for Washburn last night, but can't dull the shine on a remarkable year. Champions of the MIAA, 30 wins. Just the second time in program history that benchmark has been achieved, and a run to the Division II Final Four. Congratulations in order to Brett Ballard's bunch, those seniors, Jake Schottig, Jacob Hanna, Michael Keegan, and Andrew Orr wrap up tremendous careers with a great, great year. And there is no shame in falling short to number one, especially when number one is as dominant as Nova Southeastern has been the last 3 years now. This will be their third straight trip to the national championship game. They won it all 2 years ago. Last year, they lost on a buzzer beater. This year, they couldn't make the line high enough for me to consider betting Cal State Dominguez Hills, if indeed they took action on Division II basketball. So no shame in it. Disappointed that maybe they could have played a little better, but Nova makes you play bad. And that is their whole thing, and that is why they are as successful as they have been. Lots more to come on the program today. Want to get you involved in the show. Love hearing from you on the YouTube chat. If you are watching the video stream today on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk is the name of that channel. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. That number keeps going up. We love to see that. Again, the channel 580 Sports Talk. And a hello to everybody who has chimed in already today. Jeffrey, Mark H., Paul, the Jayhawker, Vance is in, McFly Cowboy is in as well, Christopher as well, and Triple G in too. So lots of you weighing in, and happy to hear from all of you. Look forward to hearing from more of you throughout the program today. We're going to get into some Royals top of the 4 o'clock hour. Royals are 0-1, 7-4 loss in extra innings yesterday to the Cleveland Guardians. No Royals today. They've got the day off, and they'll resume this weekend, weather permitting. It's one game. We're not going to panic about one game around these parts. Not how we get down. Royals lost the opener last year. Season turned out fine. That being said, there were some things I did not like about game one, particularly, and we'll talk about some of those. We'll also talk about the things that were good from the first of 162 contests for the boys in blue. You can also text the program. We'd love to hear from you on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. We'll take a break right now, though, and when we come back, our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, joins the show. We'll talk Chiefs with Matt after this here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt Derrick is our Chiefs insider, writes for ChiefsDigest.com. You can find him across social media at Matt Derrick. And, of course, you can catch him every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Matt, not a lot of activity this week for the Chiefs on the transaction wires. Things kind of slow down with the end of the not the end of the free agent period, but the free agent period starting to calm down a little bit. They did bring Mike Pennell back at defensive tackle, though, and Pennell's been a guy that's just sort of hung around, and he's become one of those elder statesman type of defensive tackles that teams seem to really like to have on hand. Sometimes those guys get to be journeymen, but what do the Chiefs value most about what Pennell brings?
Yeah, there's a lot, because he's not only, still a productive player at this day and age. He's rare in that he's a really big guy at defensive tackle, so he can eat up some space. But he's just the best way I can put it is he's a really good glue guy. I mean, you remember him coming in 2019, and I think he played a really understated role in just how that team kind of came together, especially the defense kind of came together in the second half of the season. He came in and it just seemed like he had been there for 6 years, and guys just kind of gravitated to him. And I was just reminded of that same thing, after the Super Bowl, because I was in there in the locker room after the Super Bowl this year, after the loss, and it was a tough moment, and a lot of guys didn't want to talk, and I was actually hanging back, wanting to talk to Mike specifically, and he thought I was wanting to talk to the guy who was next to him. And Mike just comes over and he's like, hey, he's going to go back for treatment, but I'll be glad to talk to you. And I was like, well, Mike, I want to talk to you anyway. But that was probably the only guy in the locker room that was actually going up to a reporter saying, hey, you want to talk? I'll talk. I mean, everybody else was keeping their heads down and wanting to avoid it. And, and this was a guy that might have been thinking maybe that was the end of his career. But that's just kind of, accountable stand-up guys that Mike is. And that's why this team loves him.
So Pennell returns, and obviously Chris Jones is still around, and then there's not a whole lot coming back at the defensive tackle spot for the Chiefs. Get to draft thoughts in a minute, but are there any what you would call developmental prospects maybe that have kicked around on the practice squad that the Chiefs really like at defensive tackle that you think are names that are worth knowing for 2025 at the position?
I mean, the one specifically that I'm really interested in seeing is Fabian Lovett. He was an undrafted free agent from Florida State that they picked up last year, and played a little bit in the preseason, but was kind of really viewed as a developmental piece. So he's another mountain of a guy, bigger than Mike Pennell. I mean, I think you can see Fabian Lovett from space. He is just one of those kind of guys. Really intrigued to see if he could kind of maybe muscle up a little bit, trim off a little bit of the baby fat, but just kind of pick up the game. I mean, you look at this roster and you certainly feel like that the Chiefs are probably kind of looking to Lovett to be able to one of those guys. Because you look at this roster right now, I don't know if I see the natural starting, tackle next to Chris Jones. I mean, you might say Jerry Tillery, but Tillery is kind of in a rotational piece most of his career, and he's a bit of a journeyman too. And you're certainly not paying him to come in and be a Tershawn Wharton type. So I don't know how that kind of rotation fills out right now. But he's interesting. They got Siaka Ika as well, who's probably less known because he came in late in the season on the practice squad. Another kind of young guy who's kicked around a little bit, maybe just looking for the right place, but. I think Fabian Lovett's the guy that I'm going to be really keeping an eye on to see if if the Chiefs really see something in him, or this is just an experiment that hasn't quite worked out yet.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, I'm of the belief that with the Chiefs losing Turk Wharton and losing Derrick Nottie and just kind of being a little thin at the defensive tackle position on paper, that's the direction that they are not only most likely to go, but I kind of think it might be the direction they have to go with the 31st pick in the NFL draft. Are you of the mind that they are in a spot where maybe they've got to use at least one of their first two picks on a defensive tackle, or can they afford to let the board come to them at that position and just value or believe in kind of what they've already got and what they're trying to develop there?
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be one of the interesting things that plays out here. I mean, defensive line generally is viewed as a really deep portion of this draft, both end and tackle. And honestly, the Chiefs need both. I think it's fair to say that they probably could use even 3 picks along the defensive line, and I don't think it would be too much. The challenge is going to be at 31. Do you wait and just kind of see how the board develops and how it falls, knowing that, hey, there's probably going to be a decent defensive line player available at 31, maybe not the guy specifically that you wanted, and certainly probably not first round value? Or do you keep an eye on, hey, if a player that you like starts to fall, do you try and move up and get that guy? And even if it's not a defensive end, I mean, that's their defensive lineman. That's going to be the kind of, I think, a way that the Chiefs have to kind of weigh value and their resources and how they're going to deploy them. I mean, I think it's, in Kansas City, I think there's a better understanding of this roster, because I think you ask any of us locally who cover this team and fans of this team, I think you're going to hear defensive line all the time out of who this team should take in the first round. And yet, how many mock drafts have we seen and you've seen that have the Chiefs taking a tackle, an offensive tackle, and left tackle in the first round? I just don't think that's the direction that they're thinking at all. And like you said, I mean, you look at how this roster is built, they badly need help along this defensive line, not just for 25, but for 26, 27, and 28.
Matt, since we last spoke, we've gotten to hear from some of the newest members of the Kansas City Chiefs, and among those is the new backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, spoke to the media earlier on. And I guess my question for you about Minshew, because I didn't get to ask you this on the occasion of his signing, do you think that this is the quarterback that helps the Chiefs get off the backup quarterback carousel, or are the Chiefs content to live that way? Are they content to find a guy every year who is fringe starting caliber, who has started games in the league but doesn't have a starting opportunity in front of him, and say, hey, we're going to plug you in, you're going to learn from Mahomes and Andy Reid, and you'll be there to step in a worst case scenario? Is this just kind of the way the Chiefs are going to look at that position rather than look at it as something developmental?
I mean, it certainly seems that way, because, they have not put any developmental resources really into a quarterback since they drafted Mahomes. I mean, they brought in a couple of young guys, and, Chris Oladokun being the latest, but, they've had some other young guys in that number 3 or number 4 spot, but they've consistently had a veteran behind Mahomes. And I think that's always been twofold. I mean, one, obviously, they want a veteran around Mahomes that, especially when he was younger, that could be, a backup for him in the sense, in the quarterback room, to be able to give him a different voice, to have a veteran that can give him some tips, see things on film, or even just, when he's got questions or concerns or things that he hasn't experienced before, that he's got somebody who's been around that can advise him. And I think even in Gardner Minshew, they still get that. But she's made it pretty clear. I mean, they want that number 2 quarterback. They want a quarterback that can win them games if something happens to Mahomes. I mean, they don't feel like that they're one quarterback injury away from being 3-14 and, some sort of Indianapolis Colts disaster. I mean, they feel like they're still a playoff team, without Mahomes, and that they want to be able to just keep the show running if they need to for a few weeks. And, they don't want to take the risk with just a pure young guy. I don't know if they just don't feel like they have the bandwidth to develop a young quarterback anymore, because that used to be one of Andy Reid's strengths, was, taking late round picks or even undrafted quarterbacks, coaching them up, and then flipping them for more draft picks. I don't know if it's just that, like I said, I don't know if they feel like they don't have the bandwidth anymore with practice time and all of this. I mean, no more 2-a-days, no more of those opportunities. So it may just feel like that they feel like those reps are too valuable and they just don't have the time to develop a young guy like they used to.
Do you feel better about Minshew as the backup than about Carson Wentz this time last year?
I think I do. And part of it certainly was, he won the press conference last week on that Zoom. He was very entertaining. But, on top of that, I thought he was also pretty commanding. I mean, it's clear that, this guy, he's a learner. I mean, he's excited about this opportunity. Obviously, he's played in some similar offenses, so I think that will help. He's seen a lot of things, so I think that can help Mahomes too. But I tell you what, I've been just thinking about what kind of mindset that he brings into that quarterback room. And I go back to what Brett Veach said at the combine about how, Patrick has seen too much sometimes, and maybe he sees things that aren't there. And I think you could absolutely say that, hey, one of the ways that maybe Patrick is different than he was a few years ago is that maybe he's not quite the gunslinger that he used to be. And maybe the backups that he's had in the past have caused him to maybe be a little bit more of a check down than maybe he was 5 or 6 years ago. If Gardner Minshew is the guy in the quarterback room that's going to say, hey, why didn't you throw it here to this guy? I don't care if that window was 3 inches open. You've got 3 inches to throw the football. Take it. Don't check the ball down there, man. This guy's open. If Minshew can maybe be that guy for Mahomes, maybe he will get to address the problems that the Chiefs have had with Mahomes, and maybe as far as depth of target goes, and just, to me, it's not even talking about deep ball. It's just talking about maybe choosing the intermediate options rather than just the easy stuff underneath.
Last thing for Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. Earlier today, it was revealed that ESPN, Disney Plus, and Skydance Sports have produced a new ESPN original series on the Kansas City Chiefs. It'll be a 6-part series that follows the Chiefs throughout their 2024 season, but also tells the story of the history of the franchise. And you had mentioned something on social media that this explained some of the presence that you saw in the press box or in the interview rooms throughout last year. What do you think the fans can expect from this project, and what maybe are now makes a little bit more sense to you given the announcement of this project?
Yeah, there were a lot of camera people, a lot of production people. A lot of times that players were not available last season because they had too many other media commitments. Okay, well, now I'm figuring out what these media commitments were, Dan. So now it's starting to make a little bit more sense. It's a little bit like quarterback in the same way. I mean, throughout that season, we didn't know about that show that was being shot. And it's like, why are these people following Mahomes around? Has Mahomes hired somebody to follow him around and document him? And last year it was less Mahomes centric, but now it's starting to make a lot more sense. And there's another one too in there. The Foolish Club Studios is another one of these producers. That's the Chiefs in-house production, and that's different than 65 Toss Power Trap. This is a group, that's headed up by David Higdon that they just brought in to be their communications director, and he's really more on this side of the business as far as trying to find some marketing opportunities and movie opportunities. The Chiefs, they want to be the world American football team. So they want to have movies and TV shows and all of this. They've got their own production tent now to do it. And this is just another example of what the Chiefs are hoping to build their global brand.
Looking forward to watching it, although it may have a sadder ending than Old Yeller if it's about the 2024 Chiefs season. But I'm looking forward to watching it all the same. Matt Derrick joining us for our Chiefs Insider. Matt writes for ChiefsDigest.com. Following him across social media at Matt Derrick. He joins us every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds great, Dan. Take care, my friend.
That is Matt Derrick. We will step aside for one last time out. We'll come back, wrap up the 3 o'clock hour with a little change my mind, some overreactions to opening day. Plenty of Royals talk coming up in the 4 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Matt Derrick, ChiefsDigest.com, for joining us here on 580 Sports Talk on this Friday. Coming up the 4 o'clock hour, my breakdown of the Royals opener. I was there at the K. I ate a lot of hot dogs, and I watched a 10-inning baseball game that the Royals had plenty of opportunities to win and could not, ultimately falling to the Guardians 7-4. We'll talk all about it. Look forward to get to your comments in the YouTube live chat. A lot of you have some thoughts on the game. Want to see your texts as well, so send those in. 785-272-9429 is the number. 785-272-9429. Quick round of change my mind, and since there's just one of me here and nobody around to try and change my mind, I'll just give you the things I think will happen, most definitely will happen, based on one day of Major League Baseball. The Orioles are going to score 1,000 runs. Holy cow, 6 home runs in their opener against Toronto. Shohei Ohtani's going to hit 60 bombs. If he's hitting the ball out of the park to the opposite field at Dodger Stadium in March with authority, sky's the limit for his power numbers. He is going to go absolutely ballistic. The White Sox are going to be good. Okay, no, they're not. I can't do that with a straight face. But I will say this. The White Sox will not be the worst team in the American League. It's going to be the Angels. Oh, my goodness. That is a miserable bunch of baseball players. They pitched a position player, not just any position player. Old pal Nicky Lopez pitched the 9th inning of an 8-run game, the first game of the season. They have an off day today, and Ron Washington still used a position player on the mound. That is gutter garbage. That's so bad. The Angels are going to be wretched. You know, the Angels have never lost 100 games in a season. I think they will this year. They feel 100 loss-ish to me. So some day one overreactions to what we saw on opening day. We're not going to really overreact to the Royals losing, but definitely some things that were a little bit concerning. A little bit. We'll talk all about it coming back. 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on a Friday. Great to be with you. My name is Dan Lucero, flying the plane solo on this Friday up on Huntoon Hill in the capital city here on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online, 580WIBW.com. And a special hello to our video viewers. I'm looking at you right now. I'm staring into your soul if you're watching on YouTube right now. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. You can also watch on Facebook at WIBW News. Just me today, Brendan Wrzinski, making his way back from Evansville, Indiana. Washburn Ichabod men, in case you missed it, lost last night 94-68 to 94-68, was final score as they lost to Nova Southeastern in the Final Four. The number 1 ranked Sharks dispatching the 5th ranked Ichabods in the Final Four. So Brendan's heading home. Spencer Dupuis is out today as well. Whole gang should be back and in studio for Monday's show. It's great to have you along. As I mentioned, appreciate you spending part of your Friday with me here on 580 Sports Talk, however you're consuming the program. You can interact with the show as we go along today. Want to hear from you on the text line, 785-272-9429. Want to hear from you in the YouTube comments. If you are watching the show right now on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, jump in the chat on the web browser or the mobile app. Jump in the chat, say hello, and let me know your thoughts. Looking forward to hearing from you throughout the rest of the show. We're here for another hour and a half, breaking away a little early today for some K-State baseball on the K-State Sports Network. The first of 3 between the Wildcats and the Red Raiders of Texas Tech at Tointon Family Stadium. K-State 5-1, sitting atop the Big 12, entering this weekend's action. Pre-game coverage at 5:30 on the K-State Sports Network, so we will be done with 580 Sports Talk a half hour earlier than usual. And then following K-State baseball, we will send it to Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament with Sweet 16 games in action tonight. So keep it locked. All kinds of sports tonight and throughout the weekend on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Coming up a little later on this hour, we have got our March semifinals on What Is Wrong With You. 4 stories. We'll get them down to 2. We'll do our championship on Monday's show. Monday, the final day of March already. Also, we will talk some NCAA tournament. If you were up late last night, you were rewarded. Duke, Arizona had a really good finish, and Texas Tech, Arkansas ended up being outstanding. Texas Tech repping for the Big 12, erasing a 16-point deficit, coming back, beating Arkansas in overtime. I'll be real honest with you folks. I was up late. I watched the end of that game. Great game. Outstanding game. It has ruined me for today. I am wiped. There was a time when I was quite the night owl. There was a time it was nothing to me to stay up well past midnight with the witching hours, watch the late night West Coast baseball games or overtime in the NCAA tournament. No problem. This is nothing to me. They tell you when you have children, your circumstances change. And that is the circumstance that has changed for me because I am up much earlier, which means I am down much earlier. And if I'm fighting off that sleep, it's going to come and get me. I am telling you, folks, I was trying to put the show together today. I about fell asleep at my desk. I found myself doing that thing where you kind of, you got that lean forward, your eyes are getting a little heavy, then you jerk back, you feel yourself like losing your balance. Yeah, man, I was on the struggle bus today. Those games, please, NCAA, a little earlier in the evening would be nice. A little consideration for your parents of young children. Just a little is all I'm asking for with these start times, because man, these games run long. Wore me out. But anyway, I did it for you guys. I did it for the content. We'll talk all about last night's games and the 4 Sweet 16 games to come. Also, thought about K-State as their K-State women play in the Sweet 16 tomorrow night against a injury-depleted USC team that will be without their star Juju Watkins. We'll get into that a little bit later on this hour as well. But hey, let's talk some baseball, shall we? It will not be a 162-0 season for the Kansas City Royals. They lost in extra innings yesterday, 7-4 at Kauffman Stadium to the Cleveland Guardians. Kyle Manzardo, the hitting hero for the Guardians, go-ahead two-run home run in the 6th off Angel Zerpa, and a dagger of a two-run double, if you'd like, in the 10th inning off of Sam Long. Don't often see a hitter finish a single shy of the cycle. Did all the hard stuff, but couldn't get the single to complete the cycle. But Manzardo, the DH for Cleveland, managed that yesterday and did all his damage against left-handers, which, that's the platoon advantage that the Royals pitchers had each time. Reagans gave up the triple. I'm going to use air quotes for the triple that Manzardo hit in the 4th. And we'll double back around to the real root cause of that triple that Manzardo hit. Then it was Zerpa, the lefty, who gave up the dinger to Manzardo in the 6th, and Sam Long, the left-hander, who gave up the double down the right field line that effectively iced the game. For the Guardians, sometimes good hitter out-executes you. Tip your cap to Kyle Manzardo and the Guardians for Game 1. So we'll talk about the negative in a little bit. We'll get there. Let's talk about what was good first, what I liked about opening day at the K. Number one, I liked that 39,393 people came through the gates to see it. It was a great crowd. It was a hot crowd. Biggest crowd to see a game, a regular season game at the K since the opener in 2017. Let me think back to 2017. What was unique about that team? Oh, that team had Lorenzo Cain and Mike Moustakas and Salvador Perez, and 2 years removed from a title and ostensibly still competing. That's what it takes, man, to get people into the ballpark, to get people excited. Put a winner on the field. And sometimes you don't always see that impact on a team as they are winning, as we talked about last year. But this year, I think you're going to see a bump in attendance at Kauffman Stadium, and it started with that 39,000 plus that were there to see it. And they got loud for Vinny Pasquantino's third inning 3-run home run. First of 2 hits for Vinny P. Both were extra base hits. He had the double in the 9th off Emmanuel Clase that started the rally that tied the game. I thought Brendan made a really interesting point. Don't tell him I said that. He'll get a big head. But I thought Brendan made a really interesting point about Pasquantino and what to expect or what to hope for from him in the 2025 season. Vinny's got a really broad skill set as a hitter. Obviously, he's a big guy, so he can drive the ball. He can drive the ball with authority. He can hit it to the pull side with authority. So that's one thing he can do. He's also got patience. He showed that trait through the minor leagues. He's able to do a thing that a lot of Royals hitters aren't really coached to do or developed to do or drafted with the thought of, and that is take a free pass, take a base on balls, get on base. He's a patient hitter. He knows the strike zone. He knows his strike zone. He's also really capable of getting the bat to the ball. He's a good contact hitter. If you remember, in Vinny's first season in 2022, he actually walked more than he struck out. He had 35 walks that year and only 34 strikeouts. So he's not a guy that's going to pile up the whiffs if he's able to get the barrel to the ball. I think there have been times where he has sacrificed some of those skills that he's had, whether it was by his choice or because of injury circumstances, because his power was a little sapped. He had the shoulder injury, and that cost him most of 2023. Last year, I think he was really selling out to try to make a lot of contact. It felt like he was attempting to drive in runs. Why he had all the sacrifice flies that he ended up having. And that came at the expense of those longer at-bats and those walks that he showed that he could draw in his first season. But the broad skill set is there for Vinny to be, I think, a really good hitter. And it's a matter of tying all those skills together. The patience, the knowledge of the strike zone, the ability to get deep in counts, draw some walks, get on base, help to set the table, but also the ability to drive in runs, get the barrel to the ball, and make sure you're bringing in that runner from third with less than 2 outs. And the pop, the ability to turn some of those sac flies into home runs. Bringing it all together is what will take Vinny from being a good hitter to potentially a great one. And I thought that the way he started yesterday was really encouraging in that department. And Brendan pointed out, too, when we were talking about this was not yesterday. We didn't have a show yesterday. It was on Wednesday's show. That because Pasquantino was coming off the injury last year, he got off to that really slow start. This year, he should have an opportunity to get off to a faster start, and that could really get him rolling as well. So super excited about Vinny's start to the year. Also, he's a tremendous vibes guy, and I cannot see a scenario where he has a bad year or a good year and the Royals don't have a really good year. Like if he really gets rolling, I think that's like a tidal wave of good vibes that would follow with Vinny Pasquantino. Like him a lot. What else I liked? I like the fact that the 3 best relievers for the Royals combined for 2 2/3 scoreless innings and didn't really break a sweat in the process. Lucas Erceg got 2 outs in the 7th. I also loved the way he was used in that spot, coming in to face the best hitters for Cleveland in a 1-run game in the 7th. That's Matt Quatrero not messing around and saying, look, I'm not going to send in a worse reliever or leave in a tired reliever to face Jose Ramirez. I'm going to go and get my best guy right here and now, keep this game in the state where it's currently in. And that's going to be Erceg's role this year. And I think that he is it's not for everybody. Some relievers like having that defined role, but if Erceg is a guy who's comfortable coming in whenever he's needed, that old school fireman role, I think he could excel in that. And it seems like he's got the aptitude for that. Hunter Harvey, impressive in the 8th inning, clean inning with a strikeout. Same for Carlos Estevez in his Royals debut in the 9th. Those are your 3 best guys. If they're all good, it's going to help the back end of the bullpen quite a bit. Velocity looked good for all 3, too. Erceg was at 99. Harvey, I think, touched 98. It was hard to see. I wasn't watching the TV feed. I was watching live, so I would sometimes miss the radar gun reading. Also, the TV feed in the press box is like 3 pitches behind real time. That made it very difficult to follow that way. But good velocity from those guys, good off-speed stuff, encouraging from the back end of the bullpen. So that was the good stuff. Here's what I didn't like. First of all, can we talk about those hats? Real quick aside, that has nothing to do with baseball. I love that the Royals have brought back powder blue, but those hats are ugly, man. I do not like the hats that went with the powder blues yesterday. It looked like the Blue Jays. Weirdly, I didn't mind it as a batting helmet. I think the powder blue with the white panel pops with on a batting helmet, but on a hat, nah, didn't care for it. Didn't like the pinwheel look with the hat at all. Bad hat. Just wear the regular royal blue with the powder blue moving forward. Anyway, here's the baseball stuff I didn't like. The Royals' strength is going to be run prevention. This is not going to be a top 10 offensive team. Even in the best case scenario, it's not going to be a top 10 offensive team. The most optimistic scenario, I cannot give you one where this is a top 10 offense in the American League. So they're going to have to lean into pitching and run prevention. And look, they're built to do that. They have added resources to the bullpen. Their pitching staff, their starting rotation is impressive, top to bottom. They miss bats. They induce weak contact. They are built to win because they keep you from scoring runs. But if you're going to be a run prevention baseball team, you've got to have better defensive options on the diamond on a fairly regular basis. And the Royals have a clear minus in right field in Hunter Renfroe. And if Jonathan India's first major league start at third is any indication, I'm not saying he's going to be a minus, but he ain't exactly Mike Moustakas over there. It was not impressed. I wasn't impressed with the glove work of Jonathan India over there. First inning, hard hopper, should have been a double play that Cole Reagan's got. Instead, the big hop, and India takes it off the chest, and they get the trail runner, but that ended up being a bit of a jam, bit of an iffy situation that Cole Reagan's had to work out of there in the first because India couldn't handle that big hop clean. Had another play where he dove and couldn't get the ball in his glove clean. Jonathan India wasn't regarded as a particularly good defensive second baseman, which is why the Reds were looking to move him and change his position last year before Matt McClain got hurt, and they ended up just leaving him at second base. But I don't think he's going to be a real great option at third base. At the very least, I think they've got to go to Maikel Garcia as a defensive replacement late in games. And if you're taking your leadoff guy out for a defensive replacement, I don't know that that's very good. India looked a little more comfortable in left. That might be where they leave him, which means if he's not going to be able to hack it at third base, MJ Melendez, you better hit, buddy. Otherwise, that is going to be your playing time that goes out the window because Jonathan India is going to play. He's going to play 150 games if he's healthy. They got to find a defensive home for him, and I'm not convinced third base is it. And then in right field, Hunter Renfroe, oh my gosh. It's your second year as a Royal. You got to know how that corner plays by now. He made a mess of that Kyle Manzardo ball in the fourth inning, turned what should have been a double into a triple. If it's a double, that run doesn't come around to score that inning because he scored on a sacrifice fly. That run ended up being kind of important. And that was a run that was cost because Hunter Renfroe couldn't get down after that ball that was rattling around there and rolling around in the corner. Like, it'd be one thing if he was brand new to the position or brand new to playing that corner, brand new to the Royals. He's not. That's a play he's got to make. Renfroe's whole thing as a defensive player, never his range, always his arm. And looks like the arm is still there. Like, the arm strength anyway. Don't know about the accuracy, but the strength is still there. But if you're going to be a run prevention baseball team, and I think that is the path to contention for the Royals. They're not going to bash you to death with their sticks. They're going to win because they win those close games, because they steal runs defensively, and they win 4-3 because they hold you to a single or a double instead of a double or a triple. But it gets harder to see being able to do that if Renfroe's going to play right field every day and if India is going to play third. At least with India, you can talk yourself into his offensive production outweighing anything you might lose on defense. If Hunter Renfroe doesn't hit, they're going to have to come up with a solution quick in right field. Quick enough that it probably won't be, at least right away, Jack Caglione. But that was not very promising, the defensive effort at either of those positions. Here's what I'm not going to get worked up about after one game. Angel Zerpa giving up a run and Sam Long giving up 3 in the 10th. I'm not going to get worked up about it because Angel Zerpa at best is your 4th best reliever, and Sam Long at best is probably your 6th best guy. They brought him in. There were more left-handed bats in the order. If that had been a righty-heavy portion of the Guardians lineup, I bet that would have been John Schreiber there in the 10th, who I've mentioned should never face a left-hander in a leverage spot or with runners in scoring position. I thought Quatrero managed the bullpen fine. I thought it was time to go to the bullpen when Cole Reagans gave up the leadoff single in the 6th. There's no reason to overdrive a guy, take him well beyond 85 pitches in his first outing of the year. You're going to need Cole Reagans for 33 starts. Don't overdrive him on March 27th. That was fine. Going to Angel Zerpa, clearly that's something that Matt Quatrero sees and likes with Zerpa because he's always bringing Zerpa in with runners on. I didn't think that was the wrong move. I didn't even think Zerpa made a bad pitch, to be honest with you. You go back and you watch the replay of that home run Manzardo hit, 97. It's belt high, but it's on the inner half, right? Manzardo's got to pull his hands in and make a good swing just to get the barrel to that ball. Never mind hit it 424 feet. Sometimes the hitter wins. Tip your cap. But also, I'm not going to freak out about Zerpa because he's your 4th best reliever. And those guys don't put up ERAs of 0. Sometimes they get got. They got yesterday. It's no fun that they got yesterday because there are ERAs that are going to look unsightly and because it cost them a game. You're 0-1 instead of being 1-0, and that stinks. That's no fun. But I'm not going to freak out about those guys starting in that fashion. I think that What Zerpa did after the home run, he gave up back-to-back kind of chintzy hits, and it looked like the inning was going to get away from him. They went back to work with that sinker. He got a double play ground ball. He got another weak ground ball to get out of the inning. That's why I think Zerpa does have the opportunity to be a positive in this Royals bullpen. He's just got to maybe throw a first pitch breaking ball in there every now and again. Because we talked about this last year with Zerpa. He is too predictable. He comes out of the bullpen and says, here's the old number one, fellas. See what you got. See how you feel about the old number one. Cal Manzardo felt pretty good about it. He went to the spot. He was ready for fastball. And even though it was a fairly well-located pitch, he crushed it and changed the game. That flipped the game on its ear from there. So I'm not going to panic. We're a long way from having to panic. It's one game out of 162, but it does continue kind of an annoying trend. Royals Review pointed this out on their website today. The last 15 times the Royals have had a sellout or sellout adjacent crowd at Kauffman Stadium, last 15 times, they're 3-12 in those games. You'd like to win in front of the big crowds, right? You'd like to send 39,000 people home happy or excited to go to their next game, whenever that may be, right? I don't know that it means anything. I don't know if it's significant. It's just notable, and it is, as Royals Review put it, kind of represents a bit of a missed opportunity to make a good impression on so many people. Let's get to some comments from the YouTube stream. Get to some of your thoughts on the Royals from yesterday. Triple G keeps it real simple, says bullpen stinky. Yeah, I mean, bullpen was responsible for 5 of the 7 runs. Kyle Manzardo got him, man. Like, those were the matchups the Royals wanted. They wanted left on left, and Kyle Manzardo made him pay both times. Give him credit. But in between those swings by Manzardo, the rest of the Royals bullpen was fine. They had a stretch where they had retired, I think, 12 in a row. Obviously, Urseg was in the middle of that with Harvey and Estevez, your best guys. But it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad from the bullpen. JB says the outfield and poor base running were red flags to me yesterday. Yeah, man, that was a calamity in the 8th inning, running out of that rally at first and second, or first and third. Nobody out, top of the order coming up. Everybody loves the contact play when it works. Problem is, for the Royals, it never seems to. Dairon Blanco gets hung up, and that's 1 out, and that's bad enough. But okay, fine. First and second, 1 out. Bobby Witt Jr. coming up, except where in the hell is Kyle Isbell going? That was... Look, Kyle Isbell's not a good enough player to make those kinds of mistakes, frankly. Your 9-hole hitter, not a good enough player to make those kinds of mistakes. Run your way out of an inning like that. That was brutal. That was absolutely brutal. Also, from the YouTube comments, Jay Hawker, Royals outfielders couldn't hit a baseball with a tennis racket, just like last year. Yeah, MJ Melendez 0 for 2. Hunter Renfroe, believe, was 0 for. Isbell did have the double. So that kick-started that 3-run rally in the third. But, yeah, it did not feel great. It felt familiar and not in a good way that after the 4-hole in the order, and even including the 4-hole, really, because Perez was 1 for 4, not a lot happening for the Royals offense. All the run production came from the big boys. Pasquantino drove in 3, and his spot in the order scored the 4th. All the production coming from the big boys. There wasn't an inning that was really built on the back of hitters 5 through 8 in the order. Royals have to have that. And they didn't have it for big chunks of last year, and they did not have it for game 1 of this season. Paul points out that, here's a great way to get your comment on the show, to start it with Dan was right. Paul, the YouTube comments, Dan was right to be concerned about the Royals offense. You have to get more than 4 hits, and you have to do better against a spot starter. That was an interesting factor in yesterday's game, too. Ben Lively started. Tanner Bybee was scratched. Here's a fun fact about Tanner Bybee. Reportedly, he eats Chipotle before every start. Might want to find out which Chipotle in the KC metro area it was that he visited, because he had food poisoning and couldn't pitch yesterday. So disappointing for Bybee to miss his first opening day. And I think it can be tough for hitters. I mean, they're big leaguers. It's not impossible, but you do the game prep for one guy, and then 3 hours out, you figure out, wait a minute, it's going to be a different guy. And that can throw you a little bit. That can throw your preparation just a bit. But, yeah, Ben Lively was not overpowering, and the Royals should have done. They hit some balls hard off him. First inning, they made 2 loud outs. Jonathan India went to the warning track. Then he hit a hard line drive to left. There were a couple of loud outs in there against Lively, but you would have liked the Royals to have done a little more damage against a back-end pitcher for sure. And Mark H., we'll end on a bit of a positive. Mark H. says Cole Reagans did good. Hope he stays healthy. That was not the best I've ever seen Cole Reagans, certainly, by any stretch of the imagination. Only 3 strikeouts in 5+ innings. Velocity was fine. I wasn't alarmed about the velocity. He's a pitcher who doesn't need 97 or doesn't pitch at 97, kind of reaches back and it's there when he needs it, like when he struck out John Kenzie Noel to get out of that bases-loaded jam in the first. But you do want to see guys succeed when they don't have their best stuff. And I think Reagans didn't have his best command for sure. Had a good changeup. The velocity was fine. The cutter was good, but he didn't have his great command. And he battled his way through it and left only having allowed 2 runs. Zerpa allowed the 3rd one inherited. But you do want to see a guy compete and give you a chance when he doesn't have his best. That's the sign of an ace, which is what Cole Reagans is. There's a lot of baseball. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed that more than maybe you enjoyed the result of yesterday's game. If you want to go see the Royals on Sunday, I've got a pair of tickets for Sunday afternoon's Royals-Guardians tilt, and I'm going to give those away here on the program. So if you are the 3rd caller to 785-272-9429 during this break, 785-272-9429, I'm going to send you the K. You'll see the Royals and the Guardians on Sunday. What is wrong with you? Coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. Congratulations to William, our ticket winner today. He's going to the K on Sunday to see the Royals and the Guardians with a pair of tickets. Of course, we'll have more to give away throughout the season here on 580 Sports Talk. Right now, it's time for the March semifinals on What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by our guy Mo, Ryan Mowinkle, Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services. Go check out his website, ryanmowinkle.com. That is where you can go and see what he can do for you. We've got 4 championship stories, 2 of them from short weeks, because we had a short week this week. We had a short week due to state basketball a couple of weeks ago. So we have the full week winners against the short week winners. Our first short week winner is this week's short week winner. I'm not going to pay a lot for these lap dances. 39-year-old John Elberson, who went to Rain Ladies and Gents, an adult entertainment venue in Clearwater, Florida, and got some lap dances and decided that he would leave without paying. And according to a criminal complaint, he unlawfully obtained the property of another, to wit, $160 worth of lap dances. It's a lot of lap dances. He was presented with the tab and notified the business he did not have the funds to pay for the lap dances. Charged with misdemeanor theft, spent 12 hours in jail before being released on his own recognizance. I'm just shocked that lap dances are the kind of thing you can just put on a tab. My belief with those is those were services rendered that the folks rendering those services would like to see the payment up front. But I guess that's not how they get down in Clearwater, Florida. Anyway, the other story, this is one I was not around for the week I was on vacation. A story that Brendan and Spencer dubbed Yippee Karaoke Yay. This is a new one on me. The 34-year-old man in Florida pulled a gun at a bar after getting upset that the karaoke machine wasn't working. Also in Clearwater, the Overtime Sports Bar, 34-year-old Aaron Jablonski brandished a firearm and fired a shot outside the bar after being denied the chance to sing around 2:30 a.m. Pulled a Glock 9mm from his waistband, pointed it at somebody at the bar, and fired a round into the air. He was legally barred from owning a firearm due to his criminal history. So that's really funny. That's the first time hearing of this story. I wonder what song he wanted to sing. I guarantee you it was Copperhead Road. I don't know what it is. I have heard Copperhead Road outside of the context of a karaoke bar less than half a dozen times in my life. That is not a song that I encounter. They're not playing that one between innings at the ball game usually, right? But every time, I'm not exaggerating here either. Every time I've been to a karaoke night, some Yahoo gets up and does Copperhead Road. I swear to you this is true. Copperhead Road is the song I have heard the most at karaoke nights in my travels, and by a lot. So I bet he was doing Copperhead Road. So that's our first matchup. Those are 2 good stories. I don't know. I got to go with the guy stealing lap dances. Again, short descriptions sometimes break the tie. Guy mad about karaoke fires a gun. That's funny. But guy refuses to pay for lap dances. To me, that is funnier. But Spencer disagrees. Spencer submitted his votes. He's voting for the karaoke story. So I guess we'll take your votes as the tiebreaker on that one. The karaoke story or the lap dance story. Get your vote in on the text line, 785-272-9429. Get your vote in on the YouTube as well. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment and tell me which one you think should win, the karaoke story or the lap dance story. Our other semifinal for March, and what is wrong with you? We have the Pringles pummeling, also a Florida story, if you can believe it. A woman accused of attacking a man with a can of Pringles. We don't know why. We don't know all the particulars. Just woman came up to a man and whacked him underneath the eye with a can of Pringles. Presumably empty. We don't know if she had put her whole hand in it, like you always think would be fun to do, and then you can't get your arm out of the thing of Pringles. But simple as a woman hit a man with a Pringles can. The other story in this semifinal is the Double D drunk driver. Not a Florida story somehow. The very drunk gentleman in LaPorte, Indiana, that was leaving a Super Bowl party with a blood alcohol level of 0.273 and driving his vehicle home and watching his girlfriend on FaceTime while his girlfriend flashed him. And that distracted him so much that he got his car stuck on the train tracks. He got out, but he couldn't move the car. And car was destroyed. That's the one. That's the one in that matchup. There's just not much to the Pringle story, but the idea that this man was dangerously drunk. Like, I don't even know how he knew to get into the car and start it, how drunk he was. Not only dangerously drunk, FaceTiming while driving. That's insane. Girlfriend showing him what he was hustling home for, apparently. That's a wild move. And then he gets stuck on the train tracks. It's too much, man. He gets stuck on the train tracks. So, yeah, the Double D drunk driver, that's unanimous among the 580 Sports Talk crew. It'll be the Double D drunk driver, and based upon the votes in the YouTube and on the text line, it will be the stolen lap dances. I'm not going to pay a lot for these lap dances. That'll be our championship matchup. The lap dance story, the Double D drunk driver. Very sexual month on What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. That segment sponsored by our guy Mo, Ryan Mo Winkle. Why don't you give him a call, 785-273-1572. See what Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, let's talk NCAA tournament. Did you stay up late last night? I did. I'm paying for it. 2 great games last night. We'll talk about those and the 4 we've got coming up tonight here on 580 Sports Talk. 446 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero with you today. Solo, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you being here. Hope you're having fun. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. Looking forward to a big sports weekend. Baseball's back. NCAA tournament. Going to be chilly, is my understanding. So great time to stay inside and stay warm and watch some sports. Glad to have you along. Want to hear from you on the text line 785-272-9429 or in the YouTube comments. Look forward to hearing from you as we go along. We're done at 5:30 today. Speaking of baseball, K-State baseball tonight on the K-State Sports Network. It will be the Wildcats and the Red Raiders tonight. Game 1 of 3 in that series. Big 12 action tonight on the K-State Sports Network. And again, the pregame show at 5:30 from the K-State Sports Network. So enjoy that. And then following that, we'll have NCAA tournament basketball for you tonight. 4 tournament games. Half the Elite Eight set after last night's action. Tonight's games, Ole Miss, Michigan State, Michigan, Auburn, and Kentucky, Tennessee, and Purdue, Houston in the other bracket. Last night, Alabama rained hellfire on BYU. I had BYU going to the Elite Eight in that bracket. I did not think Alabama was going to shoot 51 threes and make 26 of them. That was something else. That was quite the shooting display by the Crimson Tide. They scored 113 points. Dominant win for Alabama. They go to the Elite Eight. Florida also into the Elite Eight. They didn't have much trouble with Maryland. Maryland's got a whole issue with their coach. Like, they hate their coach because Kevin Willard openly wants the Villanova job and has been complaining about the Maryland job, and there's not enough resources here, and I don't know if we can be real good. Really kind of putting a damper on a run to the Sweet 16 for the Terps. But now Kevin Willard can take that job at Villanova if he wants it, because his season is over. Florida moving on. Arizona hung tough for longer than I expected, but Duke's too deep, and Cooper Flagg is too good. And that is certainly a championship caliber team that John Shire has for the Blue Devils. Arizona made them sweat for it, though. That ended up being a good ball game, even though Duke was up substantially in the second half. Arkansas was also up substantially in the second half. That didn't matter. Texas Tech reeled them back in, just couldn't miss in the final 3 minutes of regulation. Darren Williams made that big shot, and then he made the winner late as Texas Tech moves on, flying the banner for the Big 12 after 2 earlier losses in the night. That was a great game. Best game of the tournament so far. Kevin Harlan on the call. He was in fine form. It was a great one to watch. I wish it hadn't ended at 11:47 Central Time. That's my only complaint about that one. Tonight, I'll take, I picked Michigan State to lose in the round of 32. I actually don't think they're good. I don't know why I don't think they're good. I don't really trust the Big Ten. I don't think the Big Ten's actually a really good basketball league. So I think it'll be all SEC in that region. I think it's the East region. Ole Miss and Auburn. I'll go with them winning tonight, and then I'll go with Houston and Kentucky in the other games. I'll go Houston and Kentucky in the other games tonight. You can catch those over on right here, 580 WIBW, following K-State baseball. We'll have them for you. Jeffrey asked how my bracket is doing. We haven't really had a chance to catch up with our brackets. It's not great. Could be better. We'll get to some on second thought here in just a little bit after this upcoming timeout. And in fact, we'll hit a break now, and we'll come back with on second thought. And I'll give you all the on second thought for my bracket. It suffice to say, it hasn't been very good. But we'll take one final break. We'll come back, and we will wrap up this hour. 580 Sports Talk next. On second thought, shouldn't have picked UConn to the Final Four. Thought they had some magic in them. Thought they could go back after winning back-to-back national championships. Thought they could get Florida being a little bit more experienced in big games. And gosh, they almost did. It's not like this is the worst pick I've ever made in the history of filling out brackets. One year I picked Michigan State to win it all, and they lost to Middle Tennessee State. And I've never picked a Michigan State team to advance very far since. I'll never do it again. But UConn did kind of fall apart. They had a late lead, and it fell apart, and that was a tough one. So on second thought, shouldn't have done that. On second thought, maybe I should have trusted Michigan State because they beat Marquette. I had Marquette in the Elite Eight. That was rough. I had BYU in the Elite Eight. That's obviously not happening. So there's a lot of on second thought you can do to my bracket. My champion's still alive. That's Houston. They play tonight. They play Purdue. I think they're just going to bully Purdue. Purdue is one of the worst interior defensive teams in the country, and Houston has a bunch of junkyard dogs who get to the rim. And so I just think Houston's going to be able to do whatever they want offensively, and they'll be tougher. They'll be tougher than Purdue on the other end of the floor. I don't think it's going to be a real fun time for the Boilers tonight. I think it'll be 40 minutes of a trip to the dentist office against Kelvin Sampson and the Houston Cougars tonight. So that's my on second thought. Question not really a question, a comment from Vance in the YouTube comments. It'd be funny if Abby and Asher's brackets were better than mine. Asher did not fill out a bracket yet this year because he cannot talk or write and is barely aware of what basketball is. Abby doesn't fill out bracket either. Just not her get down. So thankfully I will never, or I shouldn't say never, for the time being, it will not be that I will have the third best bracket in my house. We'll wait a couple of years. We'll get Asher into the game, and he will probably beat me fairly routinely. My track record on these isn't particularly good. I was kind of hoping this year that, because watch a lot of college basketball, for work. This past year, though, life circumstances changed for me, and I probably watched less college basketball this last year than I have in like a decade. So I was thinking maybe, that will help me not overthink it, right? I'll just I'll have better success with my bracket because I won't be overthinking anything. And that is not what has happened. It's the same, mediocre bracket performance. It's not like it's a dud, right? I mean, 3 of my final 4 still left. Like, my champion's still hanging around. It's not like I'm completely clueless. But any hope that I had that underthinking it was the strategy that I needed to employ kind of blew up in my face a little bit. So that is, it does still help to actually know what you're talking about. In theory, it helps. Or this year, you just could have gone chalk and you would have been mostly right. You just could have filled out all the higher seeds and you'd have a better bracket than me and most of the rest of America. We've got one more half hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. That is because K-State baseball starts at 5:30 tonight on the K-State Sports Network. So we have got just half an hour left. So with that final half hour of the day and the week, we can give you some 580 Sports Talk headlines. An interesting one about the Chiefs. If you love Chiefs television programming, you're going to like what ESPN is cooking up for you. We've also got some headlines from Big 12 football and from the National Football League that we're going to get to. And then we'll wrap it up with final word. Get out of here at 5:30 today. Knock off early and get to the weekend. That's coming up. Stay with us. One more half hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2.5. Final portion of today's 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9 online at 580WIBW.com and streaming on video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on our Facebook page, WIBW News. My name is Dan Lucero. Thanks for hanging out with me this afternoon. We've got 24 minutes before we hand things off to the K-State Sports Network for some Wildcat baseball. K-State and Texas Tech. First of three this weekend at Toynton Family Stadium. K-State sitting up top the Big 12 with a 5-1 league record, putting that on the line against the Red Raiders this weekend. 5:30 broadcast start on the K-State Sports Network here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So that means we all get to knock off early and have a few weekend cold drinks before a little earlier than normal, you would say. Whole gang will be back on Monday in studio for a full show, but just me today. Thanks for hanging out. Jump in the YouTube chat if you are watching on YouTube. Love to hear from you. The chat on the mobile app or on the web browser on YouTube, our 580 Sports Talk channel. You can also text the show, 785-272-9429. We've got only a little bit of time left, so let's make good use of it and get right into our 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? We will begin with something that we alluded to when we were talking with Matt Derrick back in the 3 o'clock hour today, our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. By the way, if you missed that conversation, if you missed Brendan Dworzinski joining me from the road to talk about Washburn's Final Four loss to Nova Southeastern, and also me calling the Nova Southeastern players a word that I'm not entirely sure is radio friendly. You can also go back and catch my thoughts on the Royals opening day affair. That is all available on our YouTube stream, which will be archived, or you can just go to YouTube right now and click rewind, shuffle back to where you want to go on the show. You can also find our podcast, and we have hour-by-hour breakdowns of the show on our podcast page, 580 Sports Talk. 580WIBW.com is the website, and 580 Sports Talk is how you find us on Spotify if you want to access the podcast on Spotify. Anyhow, we talked about this with Matt Derrick in the 3 o'clock hour today. ESPN, Disney Plus, and Skydance Sports announced new ESPN original series on the Kansas City Chiefs. The development of an upcoming series. It'll be 6 episodes and expected to premiere later this year on ESPN and Disney Plus, and will explore, this is from the press release, the franchise's indelible and distinctive place in the NFL's landscape for over more than 6 decades of history, while offering an exclusive, revealing chronicle of the team's extraordinary 2024 season. Quote from Burke Magnus, who is the ESPN president of content. ESPN and Disney Plus know that sports fans are interested in stories that take them behind the X's and O's, and this series will explore the legacy of the Chiefs franchise while also showcasing the emotional highs and lows of building a championship-winning team. The original documentary series was filmed over the course of the 2024 season and includes unprecedented access into the players' lives on and off the field, details the Chiefs' journey as the club completed a franchise record 15-win regular season, captured a 3rd consecutive Lamar Hunt Trophy as AFC champions, and then nothing happened after that. The remarkable run builds upon nearly a decade of tremendous success during which the team made the playoffs every year, won the AFC West Division title 9 years running, appeared in 7 straight AFC championship games, and raised 3 Vince Lombardi trophies. So this has a chance, I think, to be really interesting, because I don't know that I would sign up for a 6-part series about the 2024 Chiefs. If that was all you were giving me, I don't think I'm all the way in on that. I think if you're a Chiefs diehard, you just, hook any Chiefs content to your veins, right? But the 2024 season, that wasn't a fun way to go out, right? Like, that wasn't a real fun story to tell at the very end. The beginning and the middle were amazing, but the end, not so much, right? So if it were just the 2024 Chiefs, maybe the appetite wouldn't quite be there for this. But I think the fact that it's going to tell the story of the franchise, which I think will be fascinating, because, there are a lot of younger Chiefs fans, new Chiefs fans, who maybe don't know all about, like, Hank Stram, Len Dawson, Otis Taylor, and those names that to them are just names on the Ring of Honor at GHA Field at Arrowhead and are not like anything they actually really know about. So I think for the young Chiefs fans, for the new Chiefs fans, this could be a really, really neat thing. I look forward to watching it. I don't think I'll have to stretch too hard to convince my wife to watch it with me. So that's a thumbs up. That's a plus. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it can be really interesting, and I will be fascinated to see how they handle how 2024 ended. But I think there is a lot of ground to cover with a franchise history of the Chiefs. So this should be pretty cool, and I'll look forward to watching it, and I'm sure many of you will enjoy it as well. Next headline, we get to some on the field stuff. Let's stay in the NFL. This headline from the ESPN.com. NFL Competition Committee pitches making dynamic kickoff permanent. I don't know how you guys felt as a whole, as a listening monolith, about the dynamic kickoff last year. It took some getting used to, and certainly visually it took more getting used to than its existence as a football play, but I didn't mind it so much. I don't necessarily think it encouraged a lot of strategy or a lot of, change in how the ball was kicked off. You saw it here and there, but mostly the kickoff just looked like a kickoff. You just had people standing in different places. It didn't have as dramatic an effect as maybe the NFL would have liked. But the NFL wants to keep the rule around, and they want to add incentive for bringing the kick return itself back as a more frequent part of the game. And the way that they're looking to do this, according to Competition Committee Chairman Rich McKay, would be a rule change that would place touchbacks at the 35-yard line. So last year, the touchback came out to the 30, right? If you kicked it through the end zone, and now there were some different rules if you bounced the kick in the landing area or whatever it was. And those rules were never entirely clear. I couldn't tell them to you chapter and verse right now off the top of my head. They're still a little fuzzy to me. But I do know that if you kicked it through the end zone, it was a traditional touchback. The ball came out to the 30. That made for much shorter scoring drives. In the modern NFL, you don't really need to get much further past the opponent's 35-yard line to get into field goal range, right? Kickers are a lot more proficient than they've ever been, making 40-plus, 50-plus yard field goals. So you were really only having to drive 40 yards to get into field goal. A 40-yard drive was 3 points if you took over at the touchback spot. Well, now, if they're going to start kickoffs at the 35, if it's a touchback, you get it at the 35, that's 5 fewer yards you need to gain to put yourself in position to just get points. Never mind the fact that it's now only 65 yards you need to cover. Remember when it was 80? It'd be 65 yards to get to the end zone. Well, that'll increase scoring, which the NFL is fine with. But the other knock-on effect would be that you would be incentivized not to kick touchbacks, because a touchback would be a little bit more punitive. You'd have that starting point of the 35. You'd like to think, you kicked it a little shorter, landed at the 10, landed at the 5. We'll cover the kickoff better. And you'll think as a kick team, well, we can get them, inside the 30 and make them have to work a little harder for their scoring drive. So that's the hope of the NFL committee. There actually ended up being more touchbacks last year, or more kickoff returns than last year. I'm looking at the wrong number. There were more kickoff returns last year. There was an increase of 11%. 32.8% of kickoffs were returned last year. But they believe, according to, again, Rich McKay, who's the chairman of the competition committee, that if they move the touchback ahead 5 yards, that the kickoff return rate will end up rising to between 60 and 70%. That's what they're looking for. Of course, if you recall, there was a whole lot made about changing the way the kickoff and the kick return were done because of player safety, trying to limit concussions. But the NFL says the concussion rate is expected to remain the same if there are more kickoff returns. Source, just trust us, bro. So that is an indication that you could probably get used to the dynamic kickoff, as they called it. I guess at the end of the day, I didn't have the biggest problem with it. I thought it was fine. I do think a kickoff return is an exciting play, so more of them is fine. I just think that you ought to be, and maybe it's just kickers. We've outgrown the touchback because every kicker's got a monster leg, and it used to be a reward for having a really good kicker was you could bury the kickoff in the end zone and get a touchback, and now everybody can do it. So maybe we just have to take that play out of the game because the kickers are too good. Maybe that's where we're at now. Next headline, this one coming to us from 9 News in Denver, Colorado. Deion Sanders gets contract extension at Colorado. He is now the highest paid head football coach in the Big 12. CU Athletic Director Rick George announcing that the contract extension will take Deion through 2029. Coach Prime. It will take him through 2029 and will pay him $10 million a year, which will make him not just the highest paid football coach in the Big 12, but one of the 10 highest paid head football coaches in the country. It's worth it for Colorado because what Colorado football was and what it is right now in this moment under Deion Sanders, two entirely different things. If all publicity is good publicity, then Colorado has already made back its investment in Deion Sanders and then some. $50 million is nothing compared to the money that football program can generate in terms of eyeballs, ticket sales, TV. If you think about it, is Colorado in the Big 12 if Deion Sanders isn't their head football coach? Can you say with certainty that they get that invite back into the Big 12 if their football program had been the Pits? Maybe they would have, but they definitely did with Deion as their head coach. So it's already made Colorado's athletic department money in that regard. Oh, and last year, they happened to be pretty decent. Went 9-4, went to the Alamo Bowl. Now, I've got questions about the sustainability of all of this as far as the success goes. They had the Heisman Trophy winner and one of the greatest college football players of all time in Travis Hunter last year. A unicorn of a player. They made one of him. We're not seeing that again. That's not walking through the halls in Boulder again. They also had a quarterback who's going to be a first-round pick in Shedeur Sanders. Now, Deion hit the recruiting trail and went and got himself a highly touted freshman quarterback in Juju Lewis out of Georgia. But he's not his son, right? And we don't know. Like, there have been a lot of highly touted freshman quarterbacks who never ended up really being much of anything. So we don't know what it's going to look like moving forward for Colorado. They've only got 7 high school signees in their incoming recruiting class. They're very portal heavy again. Just seems to be the way that Deion's going to want to do business. Coach Prime is going to want to do business. And we'll see how sustainable it all is. But at this point, the winning and losing is maybe a little bit beside the point, right? They've gotten their investment back. They are a more interesting football concern than they were and will remain so regardless of how well they do as long as Deion is their head coach. Now, do I think he's going to get to the end of that contract? No, I don't, because I do think that Coach Prime is going to want to coach his kid in the NFL. I think that's going to happen. I really do. I don't have an inside source. I just have followed Deion Sanders' life as a public figure and know that everything that goes into it is about what is best for Deion Sanders, what is best for the brand of Coach Prime. And that's why I think one day he'll go to the NFL. He'll give it a run. But the other aspect of this, too, it's been worth it for Colorado. Like, it's been a success. Whatever you think of Deion Sanders as a coach, a tactician, a recruiter, his roster building strategy, hiring Deion Sanders has been an outstanding success for the University of Colorado and that athletic department and that football program. A rousing success. You can no longer say otherwise. They could lose all of their games for the next 3 years. It would still be a success. It would still have been a successful endeavor to hire Coach Prime to come to Boulder. But if it's been worth it for a downtrodden program like Colorado, why haven't any other power programs with even deeper pockets than Colorado come calling and try to get Deion out of Boulder? Why haven't they done it? Where's the SEC on this? Where's the Big Ten? I am surprised, and I don't mean this as a knock on Colorado football. I'm just surprised that he's sticking around, that there's nobody else that's come along that has made him an offer, that there's nobody who would like the same level of juice injected into their program that Colorado has gotten with hiring Deion. And maybe, Coach Prime, and maybe that's because broadly the perception of why Coach Prime's teams won was because he happened to have 3 sons on the team, counting Travis Hunter as one of his sons. That is and that's what made them great, and that's not repeatable, and that they will not have a similar level of success when they do not have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter on the roster. And I think that's entirely fair to be skeptical. But again, Colorado's gotten their money's worth and then some. And they're going to get their money's worth on this $50 million contract extension, too. There is no question about that. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word next. But first, quick word from my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. It was a beautiful day to golf. I wish I could have. But I'm looking forward to more beautiful days to come this spring on the links at Great Life's 5 outstanding golf courses here in the Topeka area. They get better and better. Improvements keep being made to the golf courses so that they're better and better. They serve golfers of all skill levels and all ages. And being a member, a Great Life Golf member, is outstanding because the perks, like your greens fees taken care of, bucket of range balls every day, bay rentals at Top City Golf North, they are worth the membership. Go to greatlifetopeka.com. Find out more today. Final word next. Wrapping up and walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. My final words about the Kansas City Royals. We're not panicking after one game. We're not going to do it. If we'd have panicked after one game last year, we would have missed out on a lot of fun because Royals lost the opener last year, and they won 86 games, and they went to the playoffs. So one game, not the end of the world. However, I am a little concerned about defense at the hot corner and defense and really everything about Hunter Renfroe in right field. That would be worth monitoring as we move forward. And again, the idea that maybe they just don't have enough bats because it was once again 5 through 8 in the lineup, just not doing enough to float the big boppers at the top. And when the big boppers aren't all excellent, and Jonathan India didn't do anything, and Bobby Witt Jr. struck out 3 times, and Salvador Perez didn't do much of anything either. If the big dogs don't eat, is there going to be enough juice in that lineup? That is the big question. And game number 1 didn't give us a very satisfying answer to it. Good news is there's 161 more of them still to come that we can look forward to, including Saturday and Sunday games you'll hear right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We've got K-State baseball coming up tonight, followed by NCAA tournament coverage. Tomorrow, Royals baseball, followed by the K-State women taking on USC. They've got a chance. They got to control Kiki Iriathan, but they've got a chance to take down USC, certainly with USC having lost Juju Watkins. That'll be tomorrow, and then Sunday, more Royals and more NCAA tournament coverage. So enjoy the sports this weekend. We'll be back from 3 to 6 on Monday. I am Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.